Good morning, children. Hope you all are safe and sound in the comfortable zone of your homes. Welcome back to English class with part 2 of chapter The Interview. In part 1, we have read about the views of different people who have expressed strong dislike for interviews. They go to the extent of calling it immoral, a crime, an attack, and even described it like thumbprints on the windpipe. In spite of its drawbacks, we can say that interviews give us the insight into the personalities of the celebrities and bring out truth and inspire the masses. So undoubtedly, it is a supremely serviceable medium of communication. So let's continue the chapter with part 2. As I had told you earlier, that part 2 talks about the interview of Umberto Eco taken by Mukund Padmabhan. I am a professor who writes novels on Sundays, says Umberto Eco. So Umberto Eco writes novels only on Sundays. The following is an extract from an interview of Umberto Eco. The interviewer is Mukund Padmabhan from The Hindu. It is the name of the newspaper. So Mukund Padmabhan is a reporter from this newspaper. Umberto Eco, a professor at the University of Bologna in Italy, had already acquired a formidable reputation as a scholar for his ideas on semiotics, literary interpretations, and medieval aesthetics before he turned to writing fiction. Now let's know the meanings first. Formidable means impressive. Scholar means a person who knows a lot about a particular subject because he has studied in detail. Interpretation means explanations or translating one spoken language into another. And medieval here means the Middle Age period, which falls between 5th to 15th century. And aesthetics means study of beauty in the form of art. So it is said that before Umberto Eco started writing his own stories, he acquired an impressive reputation as a scholar because he had good ideas on the study of signs and symbols, literary interpretation because he used to give good explanations of literature, and had good knowledge of medieval study of beauty, which was in the form of art. Literary fiction, academic text, essays, children's book, newspaper articles. His written output is staggeringly large and wide-ranging. So he has written a lot in the form of academic texts, stories, essays, articles, and for children's book. Now staggeringly means surprisingly. In 1980, he acquired the equivalent of intellectual superstardom with the publication of The Name of the Rose, which sold more than 10 million copies. So with the publication of his novel, this is the name of the novel, The Name of the Rose. With the publication of this novel, he became a star because this novel, because 10 million copies of this novel were sold. Next, we are going to read the actual interview of Umberto Eco. Mukund, he is an interviewer, and Umberto Eco is interviewee. Now Mukund says The English novelist and academic David Lodge once remarked, "I can't understand how one man can do all the things he does." Now here he refers to Umberto Eco. So Mukund is asking Umberto Eco that this person, David Lodge, he was a novelist, once remarked to Mukund that he can't understand how one man can do so many things at one time. So Umberto Eco replies, what he replies, "Maybe I give the impression of doing many things, but in the end I am convinced I am always doing the same thing." Now what he replies, that maybe it seems to other people that I am doing multiple tasks, but according to me I am doing same thing every time. Now what is that same thing? The same thing is writing. Though he is writing under different titles, like sometimes he is writing articles, sometimes essays, sometimes he writing for children's book, and sometimes he writes for novels, but doing same thing all time means he is doing writing work. Now Mukund says, which is that same thing? Now Umberto Eco, now that is more difficult to explain. I have some philosophical interests and I pursue them through my academic work and my novels. Even my books for children are about non-violence and peace. You see the same bunch of ethical and philosophical interests. Now philosophical here means thoughtful, tries to seek truth through reasoning. A person who tries to know the truth through reasoning. And pursue here means to follow, and ethical means value based, related to morals. Now Umberto says that I have philosophical interest. I am quite thoughtful because, and I follow that belief, because whenever I write, I study the mind and interest of the people. Accordingly, I write. So he says, my books for children are about non-violence, because he knows that children should be given values. So that's why he says, you say the same bunch of ethical, philosophical interest. So after reading the mind of the children, then I write for them in the books, and his stories for children books are about non-violence. Then he says, and then I have a secret. He shares his secret. Did you know what will happen if you eliminate the empty spaces from the universe? Eliminate the empty spaces in all the atoms. The universe will become as big as my fist. Now, eliminate means remove. And fist here means when we fold our fingers, just fold your fingers towards the palm, it takes the shape of fist, just like a blow. I think it is clear what is fist. Now, what is his secret? He says, if we remove all the empty spaces from the universe. Now, first tell me that you all have read that how solid, liquid and gas are packed. In science you have read that in solid atoms are packed very tightly, and in liquid they are little bit loosely packed, and in gas the atoms are very freely packed. It has so many empty space in between the atoms. So if we remove these empty spaces, so he says even our universe have empty spaces in it. If we remove that empty space, the universe will squeeze and it will be a compact one, and it will be as big as my fist, just like a blow. Similarly, we have a lot of empty spaces in our lives. Now, Umberto Eco explains that in our lives there are so many empty spaces, free spaces, and I call them interstices. Interstices means gaps. In our lives we have so many free spaces, empty spaces. These are called gaps. Now, in the upcoming lines, he is going to explain by giving example. Say you are coming over to my house. You are in an elevator, in a lift. And while you are coming up, I am waiting for you. This is an interstice, an empty space. Now, if somebody is coming to your house and you are waiting for that person, simply sitting at home, that is the empty space. I work in empty spaces. While waiting for your elevator to come up from the first to the third floor, I have already written an article. Now he says, while waiting for you in my house, I don't waste a single minute. During that time, I finish one article. That is how he worked in such empty spaces of time, which many people waste by sitting idle and waiting. This next, Mukund, not everyone can do that, of course. Your non-fictional writing, your scholarly work has a certain playful and personal quality about it. It is a marked departure from a regular academic style, which is invariably depersonalized and often dry and boring. Mukund says that everyone cannot utilize the empty space just as you do. Your non-fictional writings. Now, non-fictional writings, these are those writings which are based on real facts of people and events, real stories. So his non-fictional writings, which were known as scholarly works, they were written in playful style, very lively style, humorous style, giving a personal touch to it. It is a marked departure, and this style was quite different from the regular academic style, which is depersonalized, which doesn't have any personal touch, and is dry and boring, very dull and boring. So academic style is dry and boring, while his writing way was playful and personal. Have you consciously adopted? Now, consciously means knowingly. Have you knowingly adopted this informal approach, or is it something that just came naturally to you? He simply asks him. Umberto Eco. When I presented my first doctoral dissertation in Italy, one of the professors said, scholars learn a lot of a certain subject, then they make a lot of false hypotheses, then they correct them, and at the end they put the conclusions. You, on the contrary, told the story of your research, even including your trials and errors. Doctoral here means it is the highest degree given by the university, and dissertation, it is a long lecture on a subject. So when Umberto Eco was presenting his first doctoral dissertation, his first lecture on the subject on which he has done research, one of the professors said that scholars learn a lot about the subject, then they make false hypothesis. Hypothesis means guesses or assumptions. Then they correct it, and after that they come to the conclusion. But you here means you refers to Umberto Eco. On the contrary, told the story of your research, even including your trials and errors. And you have told your story of research, how you tried to do the research and how you have removed the errors. At the same time, he recognized I was right. He recognized, he here refers to the professor. He recognized I was right. I refer to Umberto Eco, and went on to publish my dissertation as a book, which meant he appreciated it. So after the lecture was over, the professor recognized that he is speaking very right, and he was ready to publish his speech in the form of book. This proves that the professor appreciated his work. At that point, at the age of 22, I understood scholarly books should be written the way I had done, by telling the story of the research. This is why my essays always have a narrative aspect, and this is why probably I started writing narratives, novels, so late, at the age of 50 more or less. So at the age of 22, Umberto Eco understood how scholarly books should be written in the form of story. So that's why his essays were written in story form, in narrative form. And that is why he started writing stories, long stories in the form of novels, so late at the age of 50. Though he was 50 years old, and he was able to write the novels at that time. Remaining part we will cover in the third video. Thank you.